high end. We'll be at the million end of that range versus the lower end of that range.
You can count me in for some of those prayers. As Senator Cortez Masto mentioned earlier, you acknowledge that cutting releases from Lake Powell by nearly 1.5 million acre-feet could cause an additional 40% reduction to hydropower generating capacity at Hoover Dam by early as this fall, something that obviously would concern us a lot. Secretary, energy prices are already climbing at more than twice the rate of inflation, and many of my constituents rely on this energy to power their homes, especially in that region. My question is very simple. Have you quantified the potential rate impacts to Arizona customers or anyone that's affected by the cuts? And in the near term, what is your agency plan to mitigate price increases resulting from this loss in generation?
Well, America First Voice is back with another hard-hitting reaction. Today we're reacting to this Senate Energy Committee hearing where Democrat Senator Ruben Gallego from Arizona grills Interior Secretary Doug Burgum on the ongoing Colorado River drought, water releases, and hydropower concerns. Let me tell you, patriots, this is a perfect example of the tough water and energy challenges facing the American West, and Secretary Burgum is handling it with real leadership and practicality. If you believe we need smart, pro-American management of our natural resources instead of endless bureaucracy and panic, smash that like button right now and subscribe. Let's dive in. Senator Gallego presses Burgum hard on the plan to release up to 1 million acre-feet from Flaming Gorge Reservoir while cutting releases from Lake Powell to Lake Mead. He asks detailed questions about implementation. What happens if water supply increases, possible La Nina impacts on hydropower at Hoover Dam, and potential rate hikes for Arizona customers? Burgum responds calmly, explaining the flexibility in the plan, the need to adapt week by week, praying for rain, and the dispatchable nature of hydropower. Here's my unfiltered take as a right-wing patriot and constitutional conservative.
Senator Gallego.
Thank you, Chairman Lee and Ranking Member Heinrich, and thank you, Secretary, for your time today. Surprise, surprise, I want to ask you about the Colorado River as an Arizonan. But obviously, this is extremely important to all of us. Specifically, I want to talk to you about the release of up to 1 million acre-feet of water from Flaming Gorge Reservoir over the next year, and simultaneously cutting releases from Powell to Lake Mead to 6 million acre-feet, which is the minimum legally allowed through September. So I am glad to see that Interior is recognizing the dire status of the river and the need for agency support. However, I do have questions around the implementation. Does Interior plan to move the entire 1 million from? Does the Interior plan to move the entire 1 million from Flaming Gorge? And if water supply increases, which would end first, the Flaming Gorge releases or the Powell to Mead cuts? Specifically, because I think there's a La Nina that might be moving in soon that could potentially dump more water in. So we'd love to see that happens. What would be the plan for that?
Well, the plan that we announced last week was based on, the current conditions, but the numbers that we put in that showed the potential between 600,000 acre-feet and 1 million was to give that flexibility that if we end up with more water in the system, if we can achieve our objectives with lower releases from the upper basin, we'll do that. But it's going to be, week by week, month by month, as we see. And again, I'd just say, pray for rain. I mean, we got to get some summer moisture to give us some more flexibility. But if there's no change, then we'll be at the high end. We'll be at the million end of that range versus the lower end of that range.
You can count me in for some of those prayers. As Senator Cortez Masto mentioned earlier, you acknowledge that cutting releases from Lake Powell by nearly 1.5 million acre-feet could cause an additional 40% reduction to hydropower generating capacity at Hoover Dam by early as this fall, something that obviously would concern us a lot. Secretary, energy prices are already climbing at more than twice the rate of inflation, and many of my constituents rely on this energy to power their homes, especially in that region. My question is very simple. Have you quantified the potential rate impacts to Arizona customers or anyone that's affected by the cuts? And in the near term, what is your agency plan to mitigate price increases resulting from this loss in generation?
Well, there may or may not be rate increases, just lack of power generation, because the one great thing about hydro is we do have the ability to turn it off on short cycles. When we were running the largest hydro dam in North Dakota, we could run it more water releases from 5 p.m. to 11 p.m. when everybody came home and turned their air conditioning on during those hottest days, and then really ratchet it down overnight and during the next day. And so, again, that's one of the great things about, I mean, when you've got water behind a dam, it's not just a battery, it's dispatchable power. It becomes base load. And so we have some flexibility. The teams that we have are going to have a year where they're going to be making more adjustments, based on load management than they might in some years where they just turn it on and let it run. But the good news is we've got a great team running and operating those dams, and we've got some flexibility. It also depends on the power purchase agreements between each of those dams and the utilities. And so it may or may not be passed on in terms of higher rates, because on any given point during a day, if it's not the summer peak day and if it's not the peak winter day, there is excess power generation in the system. So hopefully we just don't run into no water and the hottest days of the year. That this summer on those high heat days, that's where, if we can get through those and get into the fall, can maybe get through without spikes in power prices.
That'd be greatly appreciated. And just on my last minute, the inclusion of $58 million to the Qualify water settlement in this budget reflects the urgency of funding this settlement before the enforceability deadline of April 2029. So if funding is not appropriated by then, it would void the entire settlement. And understanding years of bipartisan work that went into that to resolve this longstanding water right claims, can you speak to the importance of funding tribal water rights settlements like the Qualify in your plan?
I can speak to their importance, but I will, on that particular grant and the deadline you just described, wasn't on my radar, so that's one I'm going to have to dig into.
Yeah, I think just, not specifically to that, just in general to Water Settlement Act.
Well, as I stated earlier, I mean, we have an opportunity to negotiate some of these settlements that have been outstanding for years and years and years, in some cases decades. And as Senator Daines described earlier, if there's some deals that we can reach where we can get these settlements, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. I yield back.
Doug Burgum is showing exactly the kind of pragmatic, results-oriented leadership we need.
The
Colorado River crisis is
real. As an Arizonan.
Decades of drought,
obviously this is extremely important to all of us.
population
Specifically,
growth,
I want to
and
talk to
poor
you
management
about
have strained
the release
the system.
of up to 1 million
But
acre feet of water from Flaming Gorge
overregulation,
Reservoir
and top-down mandates
over the next
from
year,
Washington
and simultaneously
aren't the
cutting
solution.
releases from Powell
Smart,
to make to
flexible,
6 million acre
science-based
feet,
management
which is
that
the minimum
prioritizes American
legally allowed
needs
through
is.
September.
Burgum's
So I am glad to
emphasis
see
on
that
flexibility
the
is spot on.
recognizing the
Releasing
dire
water
status of the river
based on
and the
current
need for
conditions
agency
while
support.
building in
However,
adaptability if
questions
more
around the
moisture comes
implementation.
is
Does the interior plan
responsible
to move the entire
stewardship.
1 million
He
from,
rightly points out the
does the
incredible
interior plan to
value
move the
of
entire 1 million
hydropower.
from
It's
Flaming Gorge?
dispatchable,
And if
can
water
ramp
supply
up during peak
increases,
demand
which
like
would
hot summer
end
evenings,
first, the Flaming
and
Gorge
serves as both
releases
base
or the
load and
Powell
battery
to meet
storage.
cuts, specifically because I
This
think
is
there's
real
a
energy
La
reality,
Nina might be
not
moving
the
in soon
green
that could
fantasy
potentially
pushed
dump
by
more water
radicals
in.
who want
So
to
we'd
tear
love
down
to see
dams.
that happens.
As a patriot,
what would be the plan
I'm
for that?
encouraged that the Trump administration
the plan
is
that we
taking a
announced
balanced
last week
approach.
was based
We
on
must protect
the current
reliable water
conditions,
for
but
agriculture,
the numbers that we
cities,
put in
and
that
families
showed
in the West
the
while
potential
maintaining
between
hydropower that
600,000
keeps energy
acre feet
affordable.
and a million
The left loves
was
to
to give
blame
that
climate change
flexibility
and
that if
demand
we
more
end up with more
restrictions.
water in the
But the
system, if we
truth
can
is
achieve our
multi-decadal
objectives
drought
with lower
cycles,
releases from the
inefficient
upper
water
basin,
use,
we'll do
and
that.
outdated
But it's
allocation
going to be
agreements from nearly 100 years
week
ago
by
are
week,
bigger
month by
factors.
month.
We need
As we
modern
see,
solutions,
and again, I just
not
say,
more regulations that
pray
hurt
for rain.
farmers and raise
we got to get
costs
some
for
summer
working
moisture
families.
to give us some
Burgum's
more
humility on the
flexibility. But if there's
Hualapai
no
tribal
change,
water
then
settlement, admitting he needs to dig deeper,
at the
shows
high end.
honesty.
We'll be at the million end of
Tribal
that
water
range
rights
versus
are
the lower end of
important
that
and
range.
should be honored where
count me,
legitimate deals have been
in
made.
for some of those
But
prayers.
everything must be done with
As Senator Cortez
transparency
mentioned
and
earlier,
without undermining other users.
You acknowledge that cutting
America
releases from
First
Lake Powell
means
by
fair
nearly
deals for
1.5
all
million acre
Americans,
feet could cause an
including
additional
our tribal
40%
communities.
reduction
Deeper
to
opinion
hydropower
as a
generating
right-wing
capacity
patriot.
at Coover Dam.
This hearing
by areas
highlights
this
why
fall.
energy and
Obviously,
water
it's concerns
security
a lot.
are national
Secretary,
security
energy
issues.
prices are already climbing
The
at more than
Colorado
twice
River
the rate of
Basin supports
inflation.
40
and many
million
of my
people
constituents rely on
and
this
massive
energy to power their
agriculture.
homes, especially
Weak policy
in that
under
region.
previous
The question is very
administrations
simple. Have you
left us
quantified the
vulnerable.
potential rate
We
impacts
need
to Arizona
more
customers
storage
or
solutions,
anyone
new
that's
reservoirs
been
where
affected by
feasible,
the
modernization
cuts?
of
In the near
infrastructure
term, what is
and
your agency
dams,
plan to mitigate price
incentives
increases
for efficient water
resulting
use,
from this
not
loss
mandates
in
that destroy
generation?
farms.
Well,
All of
there
the
may or may
above
not
energy,
be rate
including
increases, just
hydropower,
lack of power
nuclear,
generation. because
natural gas,
with
and
the one
oil.
great thing about hydro
Rejection
is we
of
do have the
radical
ability to
environmental
turn it off
lawsuits
on,
that
on
block
short
common sense
cycles. When we were
projects.
running, the
State
largest
and
hydro dam
local
in North Dakota,
flexibility
we could run
instead of
we could run
one-size-fits-all
it,
federal control.
more water
Praying for rain
releases
is fine, But
5
real
p.m.
leadership
to
means
11
preparing
p.m.
for
when
dry
everybody
years
came home
with
and turned their
strong
air conditioning
infrastructure
on during
and
those
smart
hottest days,
policy.
and then really
Burgum
ratchet
gets
it
it.
down overnight.
Democrats often
and
use
during the
these
next day.
crises to push
And
bigger
so,
government
again,
and
that's
wealth
one of the great
redistribution.
things about, I mean, when
Patriots
you've got
want
water
practical
behind a dam,
solutions that
it's
keep
not
the
just
lights
a battery,
on,
it's
food
dispatchable
affordable,
power. It
and
becomes
the West
baseload.
thriving.
And so
The
we have some
contrast is clear.
flexibility. Our
One
the teams
side
that we
wants to
have are going
manage
to have a
reality.
year where they're
The
going to
other
be
wants to lecture about climate while energy
making more
prices
adjustments,
soar
based
and water
on
conflicts
load
grow.
management than they might in
America
some
needs
years
more
where they just
Doug
turn it on
Burgums
and
who
let it run.
understand
But the
engineering,
good news is we've
economics,
got a
and
great
stewardship,
team
not
running and
ideologues.
operating those dams,
Final
and we've got
passionate
some
message direct
some
to camera.
flexibility. It also depends on the
Patriots,
power purchase
the
agreements
American
between
West
each of
is
those
the
dams
breadbasket
and
and
the
energy powerhouse of our
and the
nation.
utilities.
We must
And so
manage
it
the
may or may
Colorado
not be passed
River
on in
and our
terms of higher
resources with
rates.
wisdom,
Because on any given
strength,
point during
and
a day,
love
if
for
it's
this
not the
land.
summer peak day and if it's
Support
not
Secretary
the
Burgum
peak
and the
winter
Trump
day, there
administration
is
as they
excess
navigate these
power
challenges
generation
with
in the
common
system.
sense
So
instead of
hopefully
ideology.
we just don't run
If
into
this hearing
no
got you
water
thinking,
and the hottest
comment
days of the
below.
year. That this
What's the
summer on
best
those high
long-term
heat days,
solution for the
that's
Colorado
where
River?
if we can get through those
Should
and
we
get into
build
the
more
fall,
storage?
can maybe
Do you
get through
support
without
keeping
spikes
hydropower
in power
strong?
prices.
Smash
greatly
like if you
appreciated.
stand for
And just on my
responsible
last thing,
resource
the inclusion of
management
$50 million
and
for the
America First
qualified water
energy
settlement in this
policy.
budget reflects the
Subscribe,
urgency
hit the
of
bell,
funding this settlement
and share with
before
every
the
patriot.
enforceability
We
deadline
need secure
of
borders,
April
abundant
2029.
energy,
So if funding is not
reliable
appropriated
water,
by then, it
and
would avoid
strong
the
American
title
leadership.
settlement
Stay
and
vigilant.
understanding years of
Stay
bipartisan work that
informed.
went into
God
that to
bless our
resolve this
Western
long-standing water
states.
right
God
claims.
bless
Can you speak to the
Secretary
importance
Doug
of funding
Burgum.
tribal water
God
right
bless President
settlements
Trump.
like the
And
qualify
God
in your
bless
plan?
the United States of America, the greatest
I
nation
can
on earth.
I'd speak to